Survival games on mobiles are some of the greatest times to be had. Usually, we're lucky to get one decent title a month, but 2025 clearly had a caffeine rush. October's lineup? Shockingly good. So grab your virtual berries and panic button, these 18 survival games might actually impress you. First of all, Resident Evil Survival Unit might be the most surprising mobile release this whole year. I know, it's not an offline game, not even out globally, but the hype is way too big to ignore the survival unit itself and the fact that Capcom's gone full stealth mode on this one. No trailers, no hype, this is just straight up survival strategy gameplay. Like, it's not your typical Resident Evil with jump scares and tight camera angles. Instead, it's about managing resources, fortifying bases and keeping survivors alive in the city. Each move matters, the visuals are sick, the atmosphere hits hard, and the tension never really lets go. It's tactical, it's intense, and easily one of the most polished Resident Evil games coming to mobile. Wall of Insanity 2 is now finally out again, and honestly, this thing takes survival horror and just cranks it into pure nightmare fuel. It's a little like Resident Evil 5 in overall feel, although you're dropped in a twisted world where reality feels rotten, your squad enters this cult's lair and none of them comes back. Now it's just you, stuck in a nightmare, stitched together from decay and blood, just fighting to claw your way back home. Every bullet matters because it's a pretty hard game, every shadow kind of hides something worse, and the game's world is not just a place, it's actually alive. Anyway, new monsters, new environments, new story with a deeper tragedy. This is a paid game, although you can play this one for free through its first chapter. Unbroken Survival, on the other hand, just built different. First of all, it's a third-person shooter set in wrecked South Africa where humanity is fighting an alien race hiding behind human faces. You play as a survivor who's been alone for years after losing a sister and this whole invasion, and now it's time to lead what's left of us. In less than 24 hours, see, this game's downloaded over 30,000 times on the Play Store alone because it is supposed to be a paid game, but it is now free. The mix of storytelling and atmosphere gives this one serious weight. The survival mechanics and the combat itself and the emotional depth really gives it real purpose. It's a free game, it's offline, it's about 2 GB in size, why not? Up next at number 4, it is Nightmares Within. It's a first-person horror survival game set on a fog-covered island that hides a creepy hospital at its center. You're playing as Sergeant Noah, stuck with a gun, some questions, and actually way many things that you'll bump into at night. It's got puzzle-solving, stealth mechanics, and a talent system that lets you grow stronger as you fight off waves of enemies, realistic weapons, a massive map, and plenty of action to crack. It actually blends shooter action with survival horror, meaning it's got quality for newcomers and veterans alike. It's free, 700 MB in size in total. Going down to number 5, we have Zombie Harbor. This one actually feels like one of those mobile shooters that just gets it. It's straight to the point, tight controls, clean visuals, and a constant rush of action. You just grab a gun, start mowing down waves of zombies and post-apocalyptic maps that actually feel authentic. The weapon mechanics are decent, upgrading them feels genuinely rewarding instead of grindy. It's fully offline so you can blast through missions anywhere or anytime without worrying a connection. If you miss old school zombie shooters with a classic survival feel, Zombie Harbor brings it back in style. Zombie Security Control is one of those games that's actually got heart. While it makes you feel like you're running the last line of defense in a world gone to hell, it's not your usual zombie shooter. This one mixes survival horror with detective-style decision-making and some deep strategy. You're in charge of the control center, checking survivors, scanning documents, and deciding who lives or dies. Every wrong call can cast lives between managing defenses, assigning jobs, and dealing with constant tension. It's a real mental grind. The vibe's dark, the sound design hits hard, and when the hordes of people arrive, you better be ready.
Syndicate appears to be submerged. Aquatic ecosystem detected.
Up next at number 7, it is Subnautica. This game came out to Android and iOS, and it's a full game. It's no demo. It's actually even cooler to play on the go, considering it's fully controller support if you've got one. The game itself is a survival sandbox, but like underwater, and it's like way more chill than it sounds, until it's really not. In the game, you're gathering materials, crafting subs, building underwater bases, and diving into the deep to figure out what went wrong in the first place. The game's controls, as opposed to gameplay, are pretty touch-friendly, visuals are solid, and it actually runs well if you've got a low-end device. Game's got a full story behind it, but you can also just explore and vibe. One problem, this is not a free game, it's about $9, but honestly, for a game with such quality, it is not a steal, but it's really worth the hassle. If you're into survival games with serious atmosphere, Subnautica is a 10 out of 10. At number 8, we have Rage Effect Mobile, which is that rare offline shooter that feels like it was actually built by people who know how to make a video game. The game mixes third-person gunfights with a survival edge that keeps you constantly engaged. You start small, scavenging weapons, hunting ammo, and surviving firefights, but soon you're crafting your own gear, upgrading weapons, and mastering, tactical combat across different maps. What's cool is how it actually balances story-driven missions with, free-to-play zones that feel legitimate. Performance is solid, gunplay feels heavy, and fights leave that one more round itch. For a mobile shooter, Rage Effect brings serious energy and ambition. Garden of Banban 8 Anti-Devil is a puzzle survival horror game, and it's like a Poppy Playtime mobile version, gone completely wrong. It's about a messed up science experiment in a world where you're just stuck. You're gonna be crawling through underground labs, dodging new enemies, and this series of games, previous monsters, into an even bigger nightmare. It's got puzzles, it's got action, but the real time is, obviously the chase moments, like one mistake and it's like game over. Every single way hides something, there's always a danger around every corner, every door could be a trap, and well, the game's music is pretty tense, it is definitely twisted, and honestly the darkest Banban yet. Survival is at its peak with this one.
There's beasties to shoot and work to be done.
Going down to number 10, we have Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. It's finally tunneling its way to Android and iOS this November, and we're only talking about this game in the video today because it's a survival shooter sandbox. Like, instead of the usual 4-player co-op, this one's a solo run where you step in as one of these 4 space dwarves that's taken into the planet's core to deal with its hazards. Your weapons get to fire automatically as you focus on surviving, mining minerals, and just pushing deeper into the underground. It's a pretty fast game, it's fine-tuned and packed with charm. The game is coming to iOS and Android soon. Just keep it in mind for now. Going down to number 11, we have Outliver, which just dropped, and it's probably one of the wild survival horror games on mobile right now. Plus, it feels like Dark Souls meets a story-driven shooter with an African mythology twist and then some horror elements. You start off by fighting enemies, shooting and solving puzzles, and just to figure out what the hell is going on. The combat's pretty intense, you gotta time attacks, use charms, and upgrade gear to survive. Portals, night visions, and voice-acted characters make the exploration feel quite fresh. It's a pretty tough game, it's smart, and every encounter, keeps you on edge. Honestly, it's one of those games that makes you say just one more run and suddenly it's another day you're playing. Coming up behind that at number 12, it is Zombie Hunter 2. Actually, the new work of the same developers as Coverfire. That game's alone downloaded nearly 500 billion times. Suffice it to say, they're going by experience. It's roughly 500,000 times picked up on Android recently, and it's one of the better survival shooters on the platform. It's free, it's offline, and definitely got quality over quantity. Keep in mind, these developers are very keen to first-person shooters and zombie games, and their new game over here is a must-try if you're rooting for something decent. It's 1 GB in total. Well, guys, Dead Force, on the other hand, feels like one of those mobile shooters that just gets in. No fluff, no waiting, just pure offline zombie carnage done right. You get to lead this hardcore op squad through collapsing cities and infested laboratories, mowing down hordes of enemies with weapons that actually feel super powerful. The missions are fast, the upgrades matter, and the pacing keeps you locked in from start to finish. It's got that gritty third-person shooter vibe mixed with just enough strategy to keep it interesting. You'll grind for better gear, face monstrous bosses, and actually feel that push to survive longer each run. For an offline zombie shooter, Dead Force hits way harder than you expect. One of my favorite games in today's list has to be That's Not My Neighbor. It's such a weird little ride, like you're basically a doorman in the 50s, but with doppelgangers everywhere, and your job is to check who's legit and who's fake. Kinda like, the zombie quarantine check game we mentioned earlier. Instead, you're gonna be using documents and information that you gather. It starts pretty simple, but the more people show up, the, harder it gets. Some are almost human, others straight up weird clones, and when this whole thing gets boring, which it does at some point, the different modes do keep it fresh. Campaign for story stuff, arcade to beat your scores, and nightmare for when you want just total chaos. Even the custom mode is fun. You can make your own, tenants and just mess around. It's pretty tense, it's kinda eerie, and it's super satisfying to play. Coming in at number 15, it is the one and only survival RPG, Earth Revival. One of the most underrated games in the list, sitting on both the Google and the Apple Store with graphics right up there with the Vision on PlayStation 4. You might want to know, this game is no longer in Chinese, but in English. It's quite a bit like the other survival game on Dawn. The only difference that these two games have is that Earth Revival is in a world that's invaded by aliens instead of zombies. It's getting constant updates, making the open world even bigger. Honestly, it's a little hard to argue that Earth Revival ain't the best game in the list. Number 16, it is old but gold. Unkilled is a classic zombie first-person shooter you keep coming back to because it just nails everything about mobile shooting right. It's built by the same team behind Dead Trigger. This one's got that tight gunplay, slick controls, and great visuals that still hold up years later. If you haven't played it especially, you start out in New York, which is already overrun, and blast through over 150 different stages and missions, filled with different bosses and different waves of enemies. What really hits is how responsive this game feels. Aiming, shooting, switching weapons, it's all buttery smooth. There's PvP and base raids if you want to test your aim against real players. Overall, still one of mobile's cleanest zombie shooters to date.
The Syndicate promised peace. But in a galaxy...
Number 17, it is Mercenary Syndicate Survival, which feels like one of those mobile shooters that just gets what makes the genre fun. Fast combat, tight controls, and that roguelike one more run pull. It's a tactical survival shooter where you lead a squad of mercenaries across war-torn planets, blasting through hordes and tweaking your loadout between different missions. Like the mix of high-octane weapons, firefights, and strategy makes rounds feel tense and satisfying and fresh. In fact, each run changes things up with random gear and maps, so of course it's gonna be fresh still hours in later. It's a game that's got that perfect loop. Fight, upgrade, survive, repeat, wrapped in clean visuals and pretty good sci-fi energy that just works on mobile. And last but not least, we've got the game The Face, which is it's a psychological survival horror game where you play as this Emily, a 19-year-old streamer trapped at 2 a.m. in a haunted little home. The house itself, neighborhood, and the forest beyond the house are all crawling with an ever-shifting entity that's called The Face. This clown-like devil that's born the void itself. What I'm trying to say is that the game's actually got story. You get to explore the home, solve puzzles, and survive encounters using a flashlight, camera, wits, offline play, and of course wits. It's playable offline. It does have an upcoming co-op that lets you tackle fear alone or with friends. It's got great visuals, a haunting audio, story twists, and it's pretty twisted as well. Good gameplay. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. See you tomorrow.